welcome or welcome back to another weekly horoscope. Mercury and Saturn both go direct this week. Who's excited? I am so excited. Although now that I'm back on the East Coast temporarily, I don't feel the effects of Mercury retrograde as much as I do when I'm on the West Coast because my relocation chart over there is a Virgo Rising. So I feel like I feel it much more when that is the case, but it's not here. So it's been a little more chill for me. How has Mercury retrograde been for you? Where do you have Sagittarius? Where do you have Scorpio in your chart? Scorpio is the major player right now, wherever you have Scorpio in your chart. That's where all of these things are going to be showing up for you most that we're experiencing right now. So with Mercury going direct this week, it's also going to be on top of Venus, and it's also going to be harmonizing with the Grand Water Trine we've had. It's a part of the Grand Water Trine. Both Mercury and Venus will be this week harmonizing with Saturn, Neptune, and Jupiter. So this is a very rare transit. If I haven't said that already, if you haven't heard me say that already, it's a very rare transit. I did mention that in the TikTok update that I did for this week ahead. It's in the description box, and I send it out in written form to my email people. So if you don't get my emails, sign up and you will get the written version of a play-by-play for the week ahead. So yeah, those are the major players this week. We have Mercury going direct on Saturday. We have Saturn going direct on Friday. And then we're going to have the Grand Water Trine all week with Venus and Mercury before Venus moves into Sagittarius. So yes, very much more emotional cleanup and really a week of taking action from that place of what have we reevaluated, what have we shifted, what have we made changes to that we want to move forward with at this time. That's really the focus of this week ahead, is moving forward with the changes that we have realized we need to or want to make. And the momentum will be here this week to do so. So if you've been feeling like your energy levels are on and off, are high and low, you've wanted to be in hermit mode, I mean, that's normal when we have anything in water, and we have a whole lot going on in all of the water signs. So honor your rhythms, like honor if you're in a cocoon phase right now, honor when you're in that phase and when you don't feel like doing anything. In our society, we've been so conditioned that we need to be productive, that we need to do stuff. And if we're unmotivated, it's bad. It's like, no. It's just helping you to recharge and rest your energy to prepare for what's next. Because 2026 is going to be a lot of forward momentum, a lot of new chapters beginning in our lives. We're still going to be in a liminal energy, but things will be moving forward a lot more in 2026 and a lot faster in 2026, especially as we get to the summer and the second half of 2026. Well, really like spring, summer, and then yeah, things will be really moving forward in a lot of major ways. I've been looking into the transits of 2026 because I plan to post a YouTube video for horoscopes for 2026. And then I do a deep dive every year in my membership. That's like a live stream that you can join if you're in my Inner Circle membership, and you get to be a part of the live stream if you're in. And it's usually like hours long because I go month to month and look at the general themes and major transits of every single month of the year ahead. So I'll be doing that probably end of the year, beginning early next year. It just depends on what's going on with me. I'm still like in the middle of a move, but yeah, so we're all kind of transitioning into the new right now. We're transitioning into major things that have been brewing for quite some time. And this week, I think we're going to see a lot more forward momentum towards those things, and actually taking the action on them that we've maybe wanted to, but haven't had the energy to, or haven't had full clarity around, etc. So that's that. Is there anything else I want to say before we get into the horoscopes? I don't think so. December, okay, here we go. December is going to give us a glimpse into 2026. I feel like December is going to be a little taste of 2026. January and February kind of feel, I would say January and then the first half of February kind of just feels more limbo-y. It feels more liminal. Maybe there will be more, again, phases of being in cocoon kind of stuff. And then middle to end of February, from that time until like May, June, it's go time. We're full steam ahead. So that's a little glimpse of what to look forward to in the 2026 video that I'll be posting here soon on the channel, and a deeper dive I'll be doing in my membership if you want to take part in that and have more of a conversation about 2026. So that's it. Aries Rising. We start the week off with the Venus Mercury retrograde conjunction in your area of other people's money. So you might be reevaluating. There's been this big reevaluation towards your money and what you're doing with it, how you're making it, where it's going. You might have been really called to organize your money, or really just look at things if you've been avoiding things with money or with possessions, like really being called, especially this week, to look at what's going on there and kind of organize it and refine things as necessary. There's also a big emotional focus at the start of the week on your career, and there might be something that comes up with career or your public image, reputation, that maybe challenges some expansion in your home or family. That is, both those areas are also kind of challenging what's going on with your sense of self, and maybe trigger some sort of identity wound, or maybe a temporary identity crisis on Monday. Kind of feels like the vibe. Then as we get into Tuesday, there is this big emotional transformation in your long-term goals and visions, maybe related to community, who you have around you, who you've been spending your time with. Could also apply to social media in some regard. There's this big support towards shifting your perspective of life as it relates to where you're headed and where you're going, and maybe even what further needs release around that to step into the new. As we get into Wednesday, we're going to have Venus harmonizing with Saturn in your area of the subconscious, and harmonizing with Jupiter in your area of home and family. So there could be some revelations around home, family, your money, what's been going on there, the cleanup you've been doing there, maybe related to subconscious beliefs or past life patternings or childhood patternings as well. It's really this big internal world cleanup happening for you right now, Aries. And on Wednesday, there could be a heightened heightened amplification. That doesn't make sense. Heightened focus on all of those things going on in your inner world. And then as we get into Thursday, the moon moves into your area of subconscious. There could be something related to something you want to learn, or maybe a long distance travel opportunity that you feel called to take action on. Maybe some retreat or something like that, that's maybe related to a spiritual practice or something. It could feel creative or spiritual in nature for you to take this trip or take action on learning something related to that. It feels like Thursday, there's momentum to like do something, which for us in the US is Thanksgiving. So very interesting energy for Thanksgiving this year. um, and then as we get into the weekend, there's a lot more momentum building. I mean, the momentum has been building all week. And if you watch the first like intro to this video, then you already know the overall energy for this week because I described it. But we're really building this momentum towards taking action on what we've been getting clarity around, that we want to change, that we want to embark on, that whatever new direction we're headed, there's a lot more momentum towards actually moving in that direction and actually doing the things we need in order to have whatever it is that we're creating in our lives right now. Also on Friday, Saturn goes direct. So there could be something that you externalize about needing to be disciplined or committed with as it relates to your spiritual practices, and maybe what's the momentum that's been building this week has gotten you to eventually feel clear about what that is as we get into the weekend. Because we also have Mercury going direct on Saturday, and there could be this aha moment with your money, your resources, investments, taxes, things like that, maybe debt. That there could be a sudden change around all of that, especially on Sunday, and you realizing you maybe want to do something different, or take action on something as it relates to what you've been kind of getting clarity around all week. There's like this sudden need to do it, to externalize the realizations and the clarity. And there's also over the weekend this big emotional renewal for you, Aries, as the moon moves into your first house and will be there all through the weekend. So that's the energy of the week ahead for you, Aries. Let me know how that resonates in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Okay, Taurus Rising. We start the week off with the moon in your area of long distance travel, also the area of information, taking in information, learning things. So maybe there's something you're realizing you want to learn. Or implement as it relates to your philosophies of life and maybe bring into your daily routine in some way. There could be something on Monday too that's maybe triggered about your subconscious or some identity shift that you're realizing you want to make or need to make because of this wound or this trigger that you don't want to keep perpetuating. As we get into Tuesday, the moon moves into your area of career. So you could be focused on your image, your reputation, maybe what's changing about that or what you want to change about your career and your reputation, and making the necessary taking the necessary steps to make those changes and have a transformation in that area of your life. As we get into Wednesday, there could be these revelations all week around your relationships and really who you want to have around you and who you maybe want to spend more time with, or there's some sort of transformation that's happening within your mindset with relationships or your conversations that you have with people around you, maybe setting boundaries in ways that need to be set with people in your life or with your community in some way. So you can maybe just clear the energy if you've been not speaking up for yourself and you've been because of that taking on more than you need to. It's kind of like speak it to clear it kind of thing could come up this week as well, especially on Wednesday. There's something that you're realizing you need to be really disciplined with as it relates to living your values and relationships. As we get into Thursday, the moon moves into your area of community and friendships, and it challenges the sun in your area of resources, of debt, of taxes, of other people's money. So there could be some revelation that you have received leading up to this that you're like, I need to take action on this. I need to like clear this. I need to do this differently. Maybe it's something about social media. Maybe it's something about how you want to show up and share your gifts in your community, maybe related to your money and what changes you're making there as it relates to that. And the change that's also happening at the same time within your career. Then as we get into Friday, we have Saturn going direct in your area of social media, community, friendships, also long-term goals and visions. So you could get this maybe aha moment or feel this momentum towards taking action on a long-term goal or vision that you've maybe been sitting with for several years, and it all of a sudden feels like there's this momentum to act on it. But that could also challenge something about your resources in some way, and maybe you're getting more clarity and answers about maybe something that needs to change with your money or how you handle it to support this change in your direction and this move towards where you're headed as opposed to where you have been. Then as we get into Saturday, we have Mercury going direct in your area of relationships. So there could be something you were reflecting on about a relationship, or the seventh house is not, I'm not just talking about romantic relationships, I'm talking about any kind of relationship you have with anybody in your life. This is that area of the seventh. That's what the seventh house rules in the chart is, any other relationship that's not you. So you could have gotten a lot of clarity during the Mercury retrograde about your relationships, and now that it's direct on Saturday, it's like you're externalizing what you realized. You're externalizing the energy. There could also be this revelation around, again, values and worthiness, maybe money as well, and wanting to spend more time around people who really nourish you and really support your vision and where you're headed, as opposed to just recreating the past. And then as we get into Sunday, there could be some sudden shift or revelation around that, as Venus is going to add tension to Uranus in your first house. It could kind of give you this sudden epiphany of like, okay, I need to change this about my identity or my way of being in order to have and experience this change in my external reality. It's kind of like, okay, what about you and your inner world needs to change to have that reflected on the external? So that is your week ahead, Taurus. Kind of feels like a week of getting clarity around manifestation. Let me know how that resonates with you in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Okay, Gemini Rising. We start the week off with the moon in your area of resources. So you could be getting just some, could be emotionally focused at the start of the week on what needs to change about your resources or organizing them, structuring them in a different way, maybe setting up automatic investments or something like that. There's a lot going on with your money, and it's like, okay, there's been this opportunity to expand with the money that's coming in, but then what do you do with it? How do you manage it? And so you're getting that clarity on Monday about what to do with that. There could also be some wounds within community or friendship that come up around that too, or that are triggered from that, and that maybe challenge your money in some ways. But it's kind of like the energy is remove your identity from whatever this wound is, because that's why it keeps getting triggered. And in order to heal it, you have to maybe detach from it. There could also be some clarity about work and maybe getting more, mm, just feeling clear about the changes you want to make in your work, and maybe that are more aligned with your values, more aligned with what you actually love to do, what's a passion for you, as opposed to just working for the sake of working to have money. It's like, no, you're aligning your work with your passions and getting more clarity around that. As we get into Tuesday, there could be some sudden emotional transformation as it relates to how you view life. There could be a shift in your perspective, a shift in realizing maybe you need to learn something new, or you need to. There could also be some revelation about long distance travel or something like that. But I also feel like it's mostly, take it as it resonates. Depends on your chart. But I also feel like this is really a big shift in how you're viewing things around you, and how you're realizing that actually does create the experiences you have. It creates your reality. Um, as we get into Wednesday, don't really have too much going on Wednesday. The moon is going to challenge kind of revelations you're getting about your work. So there could feel like this challenge or this friction around, again, like your mindset, how you're viewing things, and how that's playing into the patterns you have created in your work. Also on Wednesday, there could be, a lot of sudden revelations about career and work, and making money, and what changes you need to kind of implement there to have it be more aligned with what you want your career and your work life to look like, as opposed to just, again, like I said, working for the sake of working. As we get into Thursday, the moon moves into your area of career. So you're going to be even more focused on work, your public reputation and image. You might be focused on branding or marketing, or like just really, how am I seen to the public? How do I want to be seen to the people around me? There's this big focus on your kind of external interactions with the world. As we get into Friday, Saturn goes direct in your area of career, so you could get more clarity around. It's really been building all week, but as we get into the weekend, especially Friday and Saturday, there's this sudden epiphanies or aha moments about what to do, what to take action on to align with the dream that you've had for how you want to move forward in your career. Because on Saturday, we have Mercury go direct in your area of day-to-day work. That could also relate to how you're taking care of yourself, a work-life balance kind of thing. And there could, over the weekend, be sudden realizations about what needs to change, maybe again in your belief systems and how you're viewing life, and your subconscious, passed down from family, whatever it is, that are playing into your experience with work and with money and with everything else that you're kind of juggling and figuring out how to balance. So that's the week ahead for you, Gemini. Let me know how that resonates in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Okay, Cancer Rising. We start the week off with the moon in your area of relationships. You might be really focused on relationships at the start of the week, but that could kind of put some tension on how your sense of self is expanding, or it could put tension on your ability to take care of yourself in ways that you've really started to integrate more and embody more. And it could also trigger something or challenge something that is a wound or a trigger within your career or public image, and the kind of identity you have, or what you're taking action on in your career to change some things maybe. I feel like this is a really creative time for you as well. There might be changes you're making in your career that are ultimately more aligned with your creative passions versus just kind of maybe what you thought you needed to do, or this old version of you wanted to do. It's like you've changed, so these changes are being reflected in what you're actually doing for work, and bringing in more aligned work that is, I just run the risk of sounding repetitive, like, that is really more aligned with you and your passions and where you're headed. There could be a lot that's changed about your long-term goals, and you're reflecting on right now and getting more revelations and clarity around, especially as the week progresses. On Tuesday, the moon moves over Pluto in your area of other people's resources, of debt, of taxes. So you might get more clarity on what's going on with your financial picture or resources, or maybe just kind of organizing it, maybe getting a little creative or innovative with what's going on with your money, and maybe bringing in more, and kind of getting more insights or downloads on what you want to do with it. Then on Wednesday, it does feel like that whatever the focus is emotionally on your resources, your debt, your taxes, your investments, it kind of challenges what's going on with your creativity. So it could be like you want to do this thing, but maybe you don't have the resources, and so it's like you kind of have to brainstorm and get creative on ways to create the resources to do what you want to do, or how doing what you want to do could create more resources, and maybe just taking these small steps instead of like thinking it has to be this whole big thing all at once. It feels like you will get clarity on what to do, and it could kind of happen a little suddenly. And again, it might require you to think outside of the box. As we get into Thursday, the moon moves into Pisces. So you're going to be focused emotionally on what's changing about your perspective of life, maybe long distance travel, wanting to take a trip, or getting more clarity about a trip that you plan to take. Um, there could be just a lot that you're realizing about your mindset that maybe changes, and this is Thanksgiving in the US, so it could be like maybe spending time with family gives you a new perspective on life, or a new perspective on how much you've grown and how that differs from maybe how you were raised or what have you. And then as we get into Friday, the moon moves over the north node, so you could get emotional clarity on the direction you're headed, and more about the path that you're stepping into in this new chapter that you're beginning. We also have Saturn go direct in your ninth house. So this is the energy of like, okay, I'm now externalizing what I need to be committed to and disciplined with, maybe as it relates to a spiritual practice, or again, big mindset things coming up for you. What is changing about your mindset and how you view things? And now you're feeling like, okay, this is the time to really take it externally, and maybe take action on it, or really just get disciplined with it in whatever way it's showing up for you. As we get into Saturday, Mercury goes direct in your area of passion, of creativity, also in dating and romance. So that could be something too, as if it relates. If it resonates, there could be some sudden change within that for you, within your creative projects or passions, or dating life. And maybe that's related to what's going on in your career, because it also feels like on Saturday there's this emotional renewal within your career as the moon moves into your area of career. Um, it's almost like this renewed energy towards what you're doing and what you're changing and where you're going. And there could be some revelations or downloads that maybe somebody brings into your life kind of unexpectedly, that you realize is was the answer. And it's almost like the clarity comes and now you're taking action on it over the weekend. So that's the week ahead for you, Cancer. Let me know how that resonates in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Okay, Leo rising. We start the week off with the moon in your area of day to day work and physical health. So you could be emotionally focused on work, on day to day stuff, maybe changing up something about your routine. It also feels like that challenges some perspective of life or some wound within you. That's that you've been refining, that you've been reflecting on, that maybe needs to change because of something that has been triggered. Maybe on Monday, you're like looking deeper at your subconscious. There's also this need to really kind of maybe change your mindset about family, or change your mindset about home, or there's something you realize about home or family that kind of prompts you to look at something about yourself that you're like, okay, I don't want to keep living this way. I don't want to keep believing this about myself or my life. And there's something that you're realizing needs to change with that. As we get into Tuesday, there could be some emotional transformation in your area of relationships as the moon moves over Pluto in that part of your chart. There is this kind of sense of clarity with dating, or with romance, or with relationships in general. And it could be a dynamic changes, or something changes within you emotionally. I don't know, maybe you meet somebody this week. This is interesting. It's kind of like the energy of like this emotional rebirth within who you're around. Um, as we get into Wednesday, the moon challenges Mercury retrograde in your area of home and family. So there could be some friction between relationships and family, or what's going on with your home that maybe you're reevaluating and kind of um wanting to make changes to, getting clarity around on what you want to change or transform there. But it does feel like whatever you want to change and you're realizing you want to change, the money is there to support you. Um, it does feel like there's this harmony, even if it's not obvious that it's there. There is this potential for like, maybe things just work out suddenly, like, you wanted to make this change and you're like, "Oh, actually," you just get it feels like this clarity, it's not super clear, but yeah, which is funny, I'm talking about clarity and it doesn't feel super clear, but it's like you suddenly get this like, "Oh, okay, I could do it this way," or whatever, and it just kind of works out, unexpectedly. So let me know how that shows up for y'all in the comments. I'm really curious about that because it feels like this kind of miraculous energy of like, "Oh, this is how I could go about this." But it might challenge something, like I said, about a relationship or with home or with family. As we get into Thursday, the moon moves into your area of other people's resources of debt, of taxes. So you might be focused on that part of your life and what maybe you need to be more disciplined with, whether it's spending or budgeting or paying off debt or taxes or what have you. It's like, okay, now I need to be really committed to taking action on this, especially on Friday because we have Saturn going direct in this area of your chart. So the focus is really on what needs to change there and how can I take action to maybe have more of a solid foundation with my finances, my investments, my resources, things like that. There's also this maybe emotional epiphany that could come through on Friday around, again, more about what needs to change there to feel more secure with your finances, and maybe have diversified things. As we get into Saturday, Mercury goes direct in your area of home and family. Yay. Conversations you have to have with family members or with your home could go better as we get into the weekend because of this. There could also be a sudden shift with career, with home, um, over the weekend as well that you get some clarity around maybe unexpectedly. And then it feels like as we end out the weekend, there's this big emotional renewal within how you're viewing life and how you're viewing things. It's almost like the start of the week, you had this problem you didn't know how to solve. It worked out miraculously. And then you're like, okay, now I have this new perspective on life. So that's the week ahead for you, Leo. Let me know how it resonates in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Okay, Virgo rising. We start the week off with the moon in your area of creative projects and passions, but your emotional focus on creativity or passions, maybe romance or dating, could also put tension on what's going on with your community, how you're expanding in new ways with the people around you or with social media, however it relates or resonates. Those areas could also be challenging what's going on with money wounds, with like resources, maybe like feeling supported by money and feeling supported by people around you. There could be wounds coming up around all of that on Monday for you to face and look at in deeper ways. As we get into Tuesday, the moon moves over Pluto in your area of work. There could be something you get a kind of realization around you want to change as it relates to what you're doing in your day to day and how that shows up in your work. Maybe also what you're doing to take care of your physical health and your physical body. There could be some change you get clarity around as it relates to that on Tuesday. Then as we get into Wednesday, there could be something that miraculously comes through with somebody in your life. Maybe it's a work opportunity or a new connection you make with somebody that feels really nurturing, feels really supportive of your goals and how you're stepping into this new version of your worth and you and your values. Like all of it is recalibrating and aligning. And it feels like there could be big support on Wednesday from your community around all of that, but it could also maybe challenge something about your what you're doing for work on a daily basis. There could be this conflict between where you need to go, who you need to talk to, and also like what needs to be done. Or this could be this overextension of energy on you as well. Like you maybe there's a risk to overbook yourself on Wednesday or like overextend your energy and need to kind of deal with the repercussions of that. As we get into Thursday, the moon moves into your area of relationships. You're going to be really focused on other people, spending time with people who really nurture you, and getting more emotional clarity about what that looks like and what you want to do with relationships moving forward. Maybe things that you have been kind of reflecting on as it relates to the people around you and getting more clarity around that. as we head into the weekend. On Friday, we have Saturn going direct in your area of relationships. So there could be this need to externalize something you realized you need to change about relationships, or whether that's with a person you're with romantically or not. It's like you really realizing what boundaries maybe you need to be more disciplined and committed to setting when it comes to other people, and where and how you're giving your energy to other people. And so as Saturn stations direct, it's really about what boundaries are you putting in place? Do you need to be committed and disciplined with in order to honor your own energy? Especially as we get into the weekend and the moon moves over all of that in your area of relationships and harmonizes with Mercury, that goes direct on Saturday in your area of kind of routines, day to day, errands, communication styles as well, like who you're going, where you're going, and who you're talking to on a daily basis. Maybe could have gotten a lot of reevaluation and refinement. And so you're realizing how to implement those changes you realized you want to make. As we get later into the weekend, Saturday into Sunday, the moon moves into Aries and into your eighth house, your area of other people's resources and feeling supported by money. So there could be some sudden revelations Saturday into Sunday around that, and maybe further integrating in this new identity related to all the changes you're making in your actual money. It's like, how can you really just root that into your being, and be the goals you have with money, or be this new version of yourself that handles money differently and more responsibly, kind of thing. There's like this real focus as we end out the week on embodiment in these new things that you've gained clarity around. So that's the week ahead for you, Virgo. Let me know how that resonates in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Okay, Libra rising. We start the week off with the moon in your area of home and family. There could be an emotional focus there, maybe on just kind of tidying up things within your home or with your family, or maybe really working a lot if you work from home, kind of thing. But it also puts that emotional pull to your home and your family, puts tension on what's going on to expand your career. So it kind of feels like there's this balancing act between maybe your home life or your family life and what's going on in your career that feels like it's expanding a lot more. And maybe there's like, okay, what this kind of focus on, what do I need to have a schedule? Do I need to put a new system in place to like have better balance with these two areas of my life? Also on Monday, there could be revelations related to that with money, and what is maybe changing in your mindset with money, and getting more clarity around that, and maybe experiencing an actual change because of your mindset with money in your actual finances. Then, as we get into Tuesday, there could be some change that you get clarity around with home and with money. Like, realize, like, some epiphany or realization around home and money. And then later on Tuesday, it feels like there's this big emotional transformation with your creative passions, maybe feeling more creatively inspired to do things you've been wanting to do or create things. This could also apply to romance or dating, maybe feeling like emotionally renewed in those areas. It does feel like there's this pull mostly towards inspiration, motivation to create. Um, but that could show up in romance or dating as well. So don't don't write that one off. As we get into Wednesday, you could get clarity more so around money and career and all the changes you're making there, and maybe what you want to do and moving forward, and getting more. It does feel like a lot of inspiration is coming through to create things. If that's, creativity should be a part of your job, Libra rising. It's a part of what you're meant to be doing with and sharing with the world. And so you might get more revelations and the inspiration to act on that as we get further into the week. There could be something miraculously that comes through around that, or you get clarity about on Wednesday as well, that kind of builds that momentum towards that. But then later on Wednesday, there could be something about your money that maybe challenges the emotional focus you've had on your creative projects or passions. Especially as we get into Thursday, It feels like there's a heightened sense of that energy of kind of feeling like this friction or these challenges between your emotional creativity and innovations that you want to make there and what's going on with money. But it does feel like it's propelling you into some sort of evolution with money that is ultimately more positive for you moving forward, even if it does feel challenging in the moment. As we get into Friday, we have Saturn going direct in your area of work. So you could be getting a lot more clarity on what you need to be committed to or disciplined as it relates to what you're doing on a daily basis for work to make money. Maybe also taking better care of your physical health and body related to that. And there's this emotional pull towards all of that and really just acting on it. Like the emotional drive feels like it's there to really implement these things that you've gotten clarity around as changes you want to make in your life. As we get into Saturday, Mercury goes direct in your area of money. So this is taking that internal focus of money externally and maybe actually making changes to your money or starting to really talk about money differently, organize it in different ways, or maybe you're really putting out new things to bring in new streams or new streams or sources of income. There could be a real sudden change with money as we get into the weekend. I feel like I've said money so many times, but it is a huge focus for you right now, Libra, especially as we get into this weekend. And what are you really disciplined with and committed to as it relates to bringing in these changes you want to see with your money? Then as we end out the weekend, the sun is moving into you. Not the sun. The moon is moving into your area of relationships. So it feels like there's a focus on maybe meeting somebody new, or you could maybe just be spending time over the weekend with people you love, really having fun with them, going on these kind of adventures to have a reprieve from maybe all the hard work you've been doing in these other areas of your life. But it feels like as we end out the week, there is a big emotional focus on relationships and kind of the energy lightens a lot more, and things feel more like they're coming together is what I'm getting for that. So that's the week ahead for you, Libra. Let me know how it resonates in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Okay, Scorpio rising. We start the week off with the moon in your area of day to day communication and errands. You could be really focused on how you maybe need to structure or make changes to the structure systems in place within your mindset or within your actual day to day. Like, where are you going? Who are you talking to? That could really put tension on maybe how you want to expand in long distance travel or expand in terms of like learning something new or taking a course, something like that. It's like there's this push and pull energy towards what you need to take care of on a daily basis, and then like where you actually want to go and what you actually want to do in the long term. That also challenge what you're able to do, what you have the energy to do. Maybe there's something about your physical health that's coming up you really need to take care of and give space for yourself to focus on. So there's all this kind of tension and challenges on Monday, but it does feel like there's this positive transformation that comes from it, maybe in your actual mindset and towards your appearance, towards your maybe how you're viewing yourself, self-worth, self-talk kind of thing, and maybe really realizing you need to talk to yourself differently and treat yourself differently to better take care of all these things so they don't repeat in the same ways that they have been. As we get into Tuesday, the moon moves over Pluto in your area of home and family. There could be emotional revelations and transformations as it relates to what's going on in your physical home, or what's going on with family. There could be some, emotions can be heightened, and that might give you more clarity about what you need to change as it relates to that area of your life. As we get into Wednesday, the moon in your area of home and family is going to be challenging Mercury retrograde in your area of you. So it could feel like these things that are pulling your focus in home and family are really challenging what's going on with you and the changes you're wanting to make to yourself and maybe your identity. Especially on Thursday, that could feel really heightened early on Thursday, but also on Wednesday and Thursday, Venus is going to be harmonizing with Saturn. So it does feel like there's this maybe you channel that frustration into something productive. You channel that frustration into something creative or inspirational that you maybe been avoiding or not wanting to take action on. It's like, okay, this is what you asked for to have that emotional drive and like actually be in a place where it's like, okay, I have to do this creative thing that I've been putting off because it's actually going to create the change I want. Um Feels like there's just a lot of momentum towards like, it's almost like you're getting pushed to do something you've been avoiding so that you do it so that it changes your life in the ways you've been wanting and have maybe just been avoiding taking the action around. As we get into Friday, Saturn is now direct in your area of creative passions and pursuits. So there's this need to really externalize your discipline and commitment with as it relates to the creative passions you've been taking action on or wanting to or moving in a new direction around. As we get into the weekend as well, there's this big emotional focus on your creative passions and projects. So you might be really cleaning up stuff there or really just focused on what you're going to do, what you're going to create. There could also be this kind of momentum building all week towards changing yourself, maybe related to the people you have around you, changing something about your relationships and how you relate to people as well. Um, that kind of builds over the weekend. As we get into Saturday, Mercury goes direct in your area of you. So, this is about externalizing the changes you've been making to your mindset, or maybe you're seeing physical results to what you've been changing about your inner world. Like an example would be if you've been doing some sort of workout routine, you might start seeing the actual physical results of that as we end out this week. And getting more clarity about that creative stuff as well and what needs to change and what maybe you need to take action on and commit yourself to in order to see your dream build in this part of your life. More about that, more around that on Sunday as the moon moves into Aries into your area of work and physical health. There's this emotional renewal there, and maybe there's something that comes in. Maybe you took action on something and it brings in money unexpectedly. There could be something around that as well, because there's a big focus right now for you, Scorpio, on what you're doing to make money and maybe doing new things or in order to bring that in ways you've been wanting or dreaming of for quite some time. So that's the week ahead for you, Scorpio. Let me know how it resonates in the comments. I feel like that was pretty specific. So let me know, and I'll see you next week. Hi, Sagittarius Rising. We start the week off with the moon in your area of money. Maybe you're setting boundaries with your resources or with your possessions or with your money in some way. And there's this tension and these triggers that are coming up, maybe around your creative passions or projects, maybe also romance or dating, that are kind of challenging what's going on with your money and maybe ways you've been wanting to restructure things or maybe ways you've been making money and how you're bringing money in. It feels like there's this emotional push and pull between all these areas of your life. So you might be really leaning heavily on your friends at the start of this week, maybe really heavily leaning on to your connections to help you balance out these changes and challenges that are taking place within your money and creative projects. Also on Monday, Venus and Mercury are meeting together in your area of subconscious. So there could be some things about relationships or money, your values, self worth, maybe your work projects that you get clarity around as it relates to your mindset and how they're playing into your actual experience of those things. As we get into Tuesday, the moon moves over Pluto and into your area of day to day routines and errands, who you're talking to, where you're going on a daily basis as well. There could be some travel you're doing, or there could be some revelations you get around that, and maybe who you actually want to talk to and who you actually want to be with, or where you actually want to go and what you want to do in your day to day routine. There could be this emotional epiphany around changes you want to make to that part of your life. Maybe restructuring your schedule or where you're going or who you're talking to or how much time you're spending in or with all those things. As we get into Wednesday, Venus harmonizes with Jupiter and Saturn. So there's this Grand Water Trine and your areas of the subconscious of childhood wounds and conditioning that also maybe affect your ability to feel supported by your resources. So there's all this kind of internal healing stuff that comes up as we get into Wednesday. And there might be some things that really come to light about maybe subconscious patterns or past life patterns that you really get clarity around. And it feels like the final push to heal all of that stuff that's going on underneath the surface and affecting your life in ways you don't want. Thursday, that feels like there's an emotional challenge between where you have to go or who you have to talk to, something in your kind of day to day, and what's going on. So, literally, you do that healing, and then you might meet somebody or you might interact with somebody that kind of brings it all to the surface, and it's time to really like integrate the healing, and prove to yourself that you have healed it and that it's not going to repeat itself. Like the pattern finally pushes out by you having to like showcase it in real life. Does that make sense? And later on Thursday, the moon moves into your area of home and family. So you could be really focused on home, on really maybe on family in some way. There could be something around that you take action on as it relates to a change in your sense of self and your identity, um, as well. Like this kind of final push to change something about you and how you go through life related to home or related to family. As we get into Friday, Saturn is now direct in your area of home and family. So you might get more clarity on what maybe needs to change with your home or your family life, or again, with these kind of childhood wounds that have been coming up, there could be more that comes to the surface around that and really disciplining yourself to some new practice or something to deal with that in new ways. There could also be this big shift in your subconscious and maybe in your work as we get into the weekend. There might be clarity around all of those things that have been coming up for you to heal and transform and look at in your subconscious. As Mercury goes direct on Saturday, there's kind of maybe this moment for revelations or moment for epiphanies related to all of that, especially as the moon is going to be a part of it as well in your area of home and family. Over the weekend really feels like spending a lot of time. A lot of inward time, maybe needing time away from people or needing more hermit time than usual. And then as we get into Sunday, the moon moves into your area of creative passions and dating and romance. So you might be focused, like you come out of hermit mode and all of a sudden you want to spend time with people and do things and create. And it feels like this renewal of your energy because you did the inner work. You spent time with yourself and really went to the depths of everything to look at what was there to transform it and to come out better on the other side of it. So that's the week ahead for you, Sagittarius. Let me know how it resonates in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Hi, Capricorn Rising. We start the week off with the moon in your first house in your area of you. So you could really be focused emotionally on yourself, on structures, having structures or systems in place in your life that are going to help you to take care of yourself. That maybe could put tension on a relationship or your focus on relationships on Monday. It's kind of like, how do you balance relationships? How do you balance you time? There could be something that's triggered in home or family around that as well that really challenges you to maybe evolve what's going on there, and make necessary adjustments that are going to better support you moving forward. As we get into Tuesday, the moon moves over Pluto in your area of money. There could be an emotional transformation with what's going on in your money, how you make it, what you do with it, how it's coming in. There could also be revelations around that related to your long-term goals and visions at the start of the week. Maybe you're refining your presence on social media or your presence in community, like your contribution to the world is getting a big reevaluation. And so there might be clarities clarity and insight around that comes in at the start of the week. And then that's kind of feels like the momentum that's building all week as well, is kind of like, okay, how does this support my long-term goal and vision? If it doesn't, it needs to go. Especially as we get into Wednesday and Thursday, we're going to have the moon in your area of money, challenging what's going on with your long-term goals and visions. So it could feel like, how do I make this happen for myself? I feel really stuck with money, or I feel something is going on with money that isn't allowing me to have really like an aligned uh have alignment with this long-term goal and vision. But it's like bringing up a mindset for you to look at that that needs a transformation, bringing up these deeper kind of parts of yourself that maybe need to be seen and be looked at in order to be transformed so you can move forward towards this thing with nothing left from the past. As we get into Thursday, the moon is going to move into your area of day to day, routine, errands, who you talk to, where you go. There could be something around that like gives you a lot of clarity. Maybe somebody you talk to or you run into serendipitously gives you clarity on how to move forward with all these things that are kind of juggling around in your noggin. There could be also something unexpected, like that happens with money and with your creative passions on Thursday, whether that's like an idea or there's this like challenging thing that happens that again kind of has you looking at what's going on in your mindset that's causing this, and how you can really shift it so you can live the goals and live the vision you know is meant for you. It also feels like as we get into the weekend, there's this big momentum towards moving in a new direction with communication, with your mindset, with maybe again who you're talking to on a daily basis, what you're talking about, where you're going, and how that's kind of crafting your actual life without you knowing it. Also on Friday, Saturn is now direct in your area of communication and mindset. So it's really time to externalize and be committed to changing what you've needed to change or what you have been changing and stepping into as it relates to like the way that you're communicating your thoughts and your ideas and sharing information and who you're talking to and what you're talking about. Like there's this need to really be disciplined and committed to this new path and this new direction and leave behind the old. That amplifies on Saturdays. We have the moon move over Saturn and we have Mercury go direct in your area of long-term goals and visions. There could be some clarity you get about your long-term goals and visions as it relates to, this new mindset that you're stepping into, these new communication patterns you're transforming and you're really changing. There could be this sudden revelation or this sudden clarity that helps you and supports those changes. As we get into later on Saturday and into Sunday, the moon moves into your area of home. So there could be some emotional renewal within your home, within your family, or within your, subconscious things as well. There's a lot kind of coming to the surface with subconscious stuff. You might get some further epiphanies around that emotionally and what, again, further kind of needs clearing. And taking action on that as we end out the week. So that's the week ahead for you, Capricorn. Let me know how it resonates in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Okay, Aquarius Rising. We start the week off on Monday with the moon in your area of subconscious, adding tension to Jupiter in your area of work, a routine, of physical health. So it could feel like um, you're really challenged, and there's really maybe a lot of conflicts and wounds coming up in your day to day that are making you aware of deeper subconscious patternings that maybe you didn't realize were still at play and affecting you in your life. And so make friends with these triggers and make friends with these wounds that are coming up, because it's like they're showing you something that needs addressed in your life. There could also be some clarity you get on Monday around what you want to change in your career or your public image, how you want to be known to the world. There's like something you've refined there, and you're getting more clarity around what that looks like and how it really aligns with your values moving forward. On Monday. Tuesday, the moon moves over Pluto in your area of you. There could be this emotional renewal of sense of self, of an identity shift that's occurring for you, this major change that's happening with your appearance or with your sense of self. Everything about your life is kind of changing, and it starts with you, and the ripple effect comes from there. So there might be some emotional clarity you get about that on Tuesday. Wednesday, we have Venus harmonizing with Saturn in your second house, all of which are harmonizing with Jupiter in your area of work. So there's this forward momentum towards what you're doing for work, and maybe making money in new ways, stepping in a new direction there, with maybe embracing creative or spiritual gifts. And really there's a lot of momentum towards that really coming to fruition for you, and maybe these kind of miraculous things happening around that to really push you in that direction. It feels like there's a lot of positive momentum this whole week, really, with everything that you're changing about your money, your career, your work. Then as we get into Thursday, there could be some emotional challenge between you, what's going on with you, and what's going on in your career. It could feel like, okay, how do I balance all of this change? How do I balance all of these things that I'm wanting to do, or this change I'm wanting to make? It feels like there might be a supportive person you need to bring in, or somebody you need to like lean on at this time to support you with that. Maybe a major relationship in your life as well. As we get into Friday, Saturn is now direct in your area of money. So, time to externalize and be committed and disciplined with what you're restructuring about your money, or what systems you're putting in place to better handle your money and support these changes that you're making. Also on Friday, there could be emotional tension between that and what's going on with your friendships or community, maybe social media or long-term goals and visions. Giving you more clarity on what needs to evolve around all of those things that support where you're headed as opposed to where you've been. That isn't aligned anymore. Saturday, Mercury goes direct in your area of career. So you might be externalizing these ideas that you've refined, these things you've gotten clarity on that you want to change about your career, your public image. There could be something you're releasing or sharing as we end out the week, or as we start December. It does feel like there's a lot of emotional momentum and mental momentum towards like really sharing these changes and really like like putting them into place and acting on these things you want to do. Later on Saturday and into Sunday, the moon moves into your third house and into Aries. So you could be focused on, okay, where am I going on a daily basis? What am I doing? What am I sharing? What am I putting out into the world? What am I communicating in order to be supported with all of these changes, and really just keep the momentum going, because it feels like the momentum's building, and just don't give up on yourself. Don't stop. Is the vibe, because you could see this really unexpected positive shift over the weekend with what you're doing. And that's the week ahead for you, Aquarius. Let me know how it resonates. I'll see you next week. Hi, Pisces Rising. We start the week off with the moon in your area of long term goals, visions, community, social media. You might be emotionally focused on those things, getting clarity about any changes you want to make there. Could also put tension on your creative stuff, or maybe what's going on with romance or with dating. And both of those things are challenging what's going on with your money. So you might be really propelled into looking at deeper money wounds or deeper money triggers around all of that, and what needs further attention and love, and what needs further refinement in order to align with the vision you're building for yourself. Like there might be some these money beliefs that are coming up, just kind of showing you what you're perpetuating that you don't want to keep creating in your life, especially as we get into Tuesday and the moon moves over Pluto in your area of the subconscious. So there could be this big emotional transformation as it relates to what's going on in your inner world, and that's creating these kind of maybe repeating things, or um calling for you to really step up or set boundaries in ways that maybe you've shied away from because of whatever trauma or whatever triggers are there. There's there there's a need to look at that. Then as we get into Wednesday, it feels like all of it kind of culminates on Wednesday, where it's like everything you're doing and you're building, you see what's happening with it, and you see the changes that you need to maybe make or step into to really be firm and committed to this new sense of self, this new identity that has been building and maturing the last 2 to 3 years, and how it's contributing to what you're building and what you're doing in your external life. Like it all starts with you. And so there's a lot of changes happening right now. There's this new way of being that you're stepping into, and it's all culminating this week, and Wednesday kind of feels like the day where things click. But then as we get into Thursday, early on Thursday, there could be something emotionally again that's challenged between that, like really in your subconscious, like really having you look at these deeper themes that are going on underneath the surface that are contributing to these repeating patterns around your maybe ability to not communicate, or ability to not stand up for yourself or stick up for yourself and communicate boundaries in ways that are really needed. And so it's like all of this is challenging you to step into that version of yourself that just does that naturally and just does that without a second thought. So there might be this need to create a buffer, or really just further integrate stepping into this new version of yourself, so that And it feels like on Thursday, there's something that kind of makes you do that. It kind of feels like, okay, enough is enough. And you really fully step into this new version of yourself. And after that, it's like there's no going back to the old version of yourself that would shrink away from these things. Really feels like this is the week that it all comes together. And there's this big emotional renewal as we get into Thursday, and it just builds as we end out the week. On Friday, Saturn goes direct in your area of you. So, again, this is really big externalization of the ways you've been committing to this new version of yourself and stepping into it. On Friday, Mercury goes direct in your area of long distance travel, but also your perspectives of life and what's been changing there. So, you might get these aha moments or this clarity, these epiphanies on how to really communicate yourself and change the way you've been viewing life and see these things differently, because it is all supporting you to make these changes and step into the life that you want, as opposed to just creating stagnancy or creating what you don't want. Then as we get later into Saturday, there's this emotional renewal of your money. So you might be really focused on money and implementing all of these changes, and it might positively benefit your career and your money, because it's like you stepped into the version of you that has what you want. Does that make sense? It's like this big week of kind of manifesting and realizing it all comes down to how you're viewing yourself and how you're being. There could be some big shifts that support that over the weekend. So that's the week ahead for you, Pisces. Let me know how it resonates in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Bye, y'all. Thanks for being here. See you next time.